At a time when the Ukrainian sky is once again ablaze with hundreds of Russian UAVs and missiles, a decision has just been made at the White House. President Donald Trump has officially announced additional defensive weapons aid for Kyiv. But is this truly good news? Or is it a warning of an impending missile storm? Is this enough to counter Moscow's rain of missiles? Or is it a signal of the next escalation in this endless war? Speaking to reporters at the White House, President Donald Trump affirmed that the weapons to be sent to Ukraine in the near future are primarily defensive weapons.
Work out a peace between us and the entire Middle East.
On Ukraine, Mr. President, are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Yeah, defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard. Very sad. So many people are dying in that mess.
Earlier, on July 4th, the U.S. president and Ukrainian counterpart held a phone call, during which President Donald Trump stated that Ukraine urgently needs Patriot missile systems. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also confirmed that the U.S. leader agreed to help Ukraine strengthen its sky protection capability.
Regarding the conversation with the President of the United States, which took place the day before, it was probably the best conversation we've had during this whole time, most productive. We discussed air defense issues, and I'm grateful for the willingness to help. The Patriot system is precisely the key to protection against ballistic threats. We also discussed several other important matters, which our teams will be working through in more detail in upcoming meetings.
For his part, the U.S. president also praised this call and expressed disappointment with the call with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
You said you had a strategic call with Zelensky the other day. What strategy did you discuss?
It was a good call. He's being hit very hard, as I said he would. He's being hit very hard, and I was very disappointed with my call with President Putin. I was very disappointed.
And accordingly, during the phone call between the Russian and American leaders, President Vladimir Putin stated that Moscow wants a negotiated end to the war in Ukraine, but will not back down from its initial objectives.
Naturally, the Ukrainian issue was discussed. Donald Trump again raised the issue of a speedy end to military action. Vladimir Putin, for his part, noted that we continue to seek a political and negotiated solution to the conflict. He informed about the progress of the implementation of the humanitarian agreements that were reached during the second round of direct Russian-Ukrainian contacts in Istanbul. He also noted the readiness of the Russian side to continue the negotiation process. Our president also said that Russia will seek to reach the goals it has set, that is, the elimination of the well-known root causes that led to the current state of affairs, to the current acute confrontation, and Russia will not back down from these goals. We proceed from the fact, and I think that the American side understands this perfectly well, that the negotiations will be bilateral in nature between representatives of Russia and Ukraine. The specific content of a possible third round was not discussed, but as I have already noted, our president stated that we are ready to continue the negotiation process, i.e., we are ready to hold the next third round.
Российской стороны продолжить переговорный процесс. Наш президент
No, there was no specific discussion about the possibility of a meeting between Putin and Trump, but you know very well that this idea hangs in the air, and if necessary, a specific agreement will be reached on this. But this time, this topic was not touched upon.
И от этих целей Россия не отступится.
Trump's July 7th announcement to resume weapons aid to Ukraine appeared to reverse a decision made the previous week to halt certain deliveries. On July 1st, the White House announced it would suspend the transfer of several key weapons packages to Ukraine originally pledged under former President Joe Biden's administration, partly due to concerns over domestic defense stockpiles. The U.S. decision to pause the delivery of critical weapons aid to Ukraine last week has exacerbated the difficulties Kyiv is facing. An Ukrainian intelligence source told The Telegraph that the lack of Patriot air defense missiles in particular could leave major cities like Kyiv vulnerable to attacks. The Telegraph reported that Moscow launched 537 air weapons into Ukraine on July 5th and 6th, including 477 unmanned aerial vehicles, mainly Iran-Had, Shahed UAVs, and 60 missiles. The intense barrage of missiles and UAVs took place amid the decision by U.S. President Donald Trump's administration to halt the transfer of several critical types of weapons to Ukraine. Among them, a batch of 100 missiles for the Patriot air defense system in Poland, intended for delivery to Ukraine, was not sent at a time when Kyiv is nearly depleted of these missiles. According to IntelliNews, the conflict has once again shifted as the drone war increasingly gives way to a missile war, an aspect in which Russia holds an overwhelming advantage. The scale of the attack marks Russia's strategic expansion, deploying a series of unmanned aerial vehicles to overwhelm radar systems before conducting precision missile strikes. Military experts speculate that Russia's rapidly developing defense industry, supported by the expanded missile factory in Volkhansk and a swiftly expanding supply chain, could soon enable Moscow to launch 1,000 missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles into Ukrainian cities in a single night. Moscow believes that by maintaining relentless attacks, it can weaken the fighting spirit of Ukrainian soldiers, deplete Kyiv's defensive capabilities, and frustrate the West into continuing its support. Some analysts assess that Russia's defense industry is currently stockpiling enough weapons to allow its military to sustain operations for at least another 2 years of prolonged conflict, with drone production increasing by 17% in May 2025 alone. Facing challenges in securing new supplies of artillery and ammunition from the U.S. or recruiting enough new soldiers to hold frontline positions, Kyiv has announced its withdrawal from the Ottawa Convention. Military analysts and a Ukrainian unit commander believe this move could help slow Russian advances, which Kyiv has struggled to contain after more than 3 years since Moscow's full-scale invasion.
I feel very good about this because we are in a defensive war now, and we need this. We have to mine in order not to lose our land, our positions. It is better to mine because it would be for the best, it would be easier. Russia does not adhere to any conventions, so why should we? It is necessary, either we mine the land and have a chance of not losing it. We can demine it later. It's a long process. It can drag on for many years, but it's not giving up your land to the enemy.
Why would Ukraine want to copy the military tactics, the abusive, horrible military tactics of their enemy? Why would they want to stoop down to that level? I mean, Russia is engaged in some horrific things. We all know that. And let me be very, very clear that we stand in support of the Ukrainian people, and this is exactly why we're saying that Ukraine shouldn't use landmines, because the people that will suffer are Ukrainians, soldiers, and civilians. Self-defense is obviously needed. Obviously, we want the best and the strongest possible defense for Ukraine, but this is not the way to do it. Mines that killed 85% of the victims are civilians is not the way to ensure the safety of Ukrainians.
The maps of these minefields will allow them to be cleared quite quickly after hostilities end. I don't see any problems here, except organizational, legal, and time questions. I don't see any problems with the increase of Ukraine's mine contamination. Ukraine will be able to start production of such mines quickly to prevent the enemy from trying to advance. Ukraine would be able to receive these mines from the countries that haven't signed the convention. After the termination of this convention, we would be able to use the mines very quickly for the defensive lines that would make enemy advance impossible.
Та інші махінації стають можливими навіть на 4-му році.
The conflict in Ukraine remains complex and shows no signs of de-escalation. Statements from leaders indicate that diplomatic efforts are still being pursued alongside intense military activities on the ground. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian people continue to bear the heavy consequences of massive UAV and missile attacks. We will continue to provide updates with the latest information in upcoming reports.